Limited liability partnership firms. Let's discuss on this concept. If you divide the name itself, limited liability one hand and partnership firm. We know partnership firm. Partnership is obviously two people who are like-minded, who can form in a form of a business, that is a partnership firm which we discussed. Now only thing is, please recall, in the partnership firm we told the disadvantage is, one of the disadvantages is liability is unlimited. So by taking the clue of that unlimited liability, this concept of limited liability partnership firm means, by name itself you can infer a partnership firm where liability of the partners as well as partners as well as firm is restricted, that is limited liability. This is what prima facie we can understand. Same example, if you say, if a company, if the firm got a 1 crore amount and because of the firm actions, that is limited liability partnership firm actions, if something loss or damages happen to the third person with a 10 crores, then in this case also they can pay only up to 1 crore, they need not pay that balance 9 crores. Even partners also not personally liable to pay that 9 crores. This is the one thing which we have to understand, that is liability of the partners as well as firm is limited to the amount which is available, that is limited only. Beyond their business, they need not give from their personal account which they earn from their ancestor or from other resource of income from employment or otherwise. They need not pay from the other sources of income for this if any business loss or damages occur. So in nutshell, in the partnership firm also the character of limited liability will be there. This is the first character, which is a disadvantage for the partnership firm, it is now advantage. Same way, partnership firm, if you see that it is not having a separate legal entity, though it is a registered body. Here again it is a separate body corporate, a limited liability concept, and it got a legal entity. It means in the name of the limited liability, that is short form called as LLP, a cases can be filed on or behalf of the firm, and against the LLP also somebody can file. So this is what legal character. Let's understand more and more about this actually. So here minimum two partners are required and the maximum is 20. And in the case of limited liability partnership firm, earlier that there is no restriction on the maximum thing also. Here relation between the partners is created in the form of a contract, that is called as a partnership deed, and the firm means partners and the partners means firm. The relationship is there between the partner and firm. A culture is there, and profit is again mentioned as mentioned the partnership deed, like partnership deed or partnership firm also. And here transferability of the shares is one concept. If it is designed, generally profit sharing ratio, everything can be decided. Even that transferability, in the case of partnership firm, the moment something happens, again partnership has to be dissolved. Whereas in the case of limited liability, suppose 3 partners are there. If the 3 partners A, B, C are there, if if C was you want to dissolve from this partner, you want to get out of the partnership firm, then A and B can continue without dissolution of the partnership firm in the case of LLP. So A, B, C, if the C is because of the death or because of his preoccupations, you want to wish to out of the partnership firm, where in the case of partnership that that partnership will be dissolved, whereas in the case of LLP both A and B can be continued. Only the C changes can be informed to the concerned authority. Here a specific factor is there, administrative authority will come into the picture, that is the Register of Companies. There is a separate act is there, Limited Liability Partnership Act, which will be administered, and it will be one of the administrative authorities, Register of Companies. All the changes like this partners, everything has to be intimated. Whatever the changes in the partnership deed, part of the changes in the address of the partnership deed or firm address, everything has to intimated to the thing. This is one thing specialty. It will continue even though one or two partners will changes also. This LLP will continue. It will not dissolve. Technically, it will not dissolve, and the free operations will be there. There is no question. This is what ultimately. Now the question is how to form this limited liability. Minimum there should be 2 partners and there should be 2 designated partners. In the partnership firm, if you recall, I told 2 executive partners or working partners are required. whereas there may be sleeping partners. In this case specifically there is two designated partners. Designated means they are designated for the purpose of taking care of the firms, taking care of the responsibility like maintenance of the accounts, bank account or business operation. Two partners shall be minimum shall be designated. So if suppose if the firm 5 people want to do the business through LLP, out of 5 people minimum 2 people shall be designated as a designated partners. Even 5 can be designated, that is different story, but 2 shall out of A, B, C, D, E, F, if they want to do the business, at least A or B or A or C, likewise they 2 people should be designated. And then once they want to form the decided to form LLP, there is a requirement of one number that is DPIN or DIN. DIN is Director Identification Number, which is required in the case of private limited companies. Same number can be used here also, otherwise for partner identification number they have to obtain, and same should be used. Means before you want to become partner, you must have either DIN or DPIN. Once you are having DIN or DPIN, then only you are allowed to become the partner. Once that partner is there only, then the process of incorporation will start. This is in the case of LLP. First step will be, first they have to decide about the name. Once they decide the name, that should be again checked with the register of companies, that is a through portal, that is Ministry of Corporate Affairs portal, whether that name is available or not, because limited liability concept is unlike partnership firm, it is not restricted to area of other things. In the case of partnership firm, there may be names which may be identical across the India, whereas in the case of limited liability, there should not be a name which is existing in one place, it cannot be replaced in other places. Means suppose for example, a name which is appearing in the, which is chosen in the area of Andhra, it should not be there in the other part of Chennai or something else. So I will explain with a more example. ABC LLP is there. If one person want to start with a business with ABC LLP, then before he is decided to choose ABC LLP, he has to check whether any ABC LLP is there at Chennai or Bombay or Gujarat or something else. If that is there, he can't choose that ABC LLP. So he should choose separate a name which is not existing across the India. This is the one peculiarity character. Whereas in the case of partnership firm, there may be ABC LLP, so many there. ABC partnership, so many are there, there is no problem. Whereas in the case of LLP, ABC LLP should be there one only. So if you want to do, if ABC people want to do with ABC LLP, if that is not there, they have to go for other name which may be related to the god, or it may be related to their son or daughter name or anything else, but ABC LLP may not be there. So that is the one thing, that first step in the formation is name should be identified and separate. It should not again exist with other firm. There should not be any competition in the name. It should be separate and distinct and identifiable in a separate manner. This is the one thing, first step they have to do. Once name is finalized and they have to make application, then that name will be confirmed by the register of companies. Once name is confirmed, they have to then go for a formal agreement that is called as partnership deed. Then that partnership deed, again as usual, what is the profit sharing ratio, what is the interest rate, other things, everything, who will operate the bank account, couple of other condition has to be mentioned in that LLP, and they have to submit to the register of companies through portal. Once that is registered, then this LLP will exist with a separate identity. This is the nutshell procedure in a simple manner which can be done. So an advantage or characteristic feature is very clear. There is a tax benefit is there, greater flexibility is there, there is no question of dissolutions time to time, and registration cost is also very less, and even compliance cost also very less, except one or two things. If they do filings and everything in timeline, very cheap. Otherwise, once they miss the timeline, it will become costly. Otherwise, maintenance cost, except if you are acting in the timelines for LLP, having legal benefits and legal advantages, very simple and easy and very economical if those who are acting in timelines. So let's move to another legal structure, that is one person company. One person company, name itself a single person. Now the question is, single person, who is he? Before that, let's understand how the company will run, who are the persons, what are the various characters in the company. So our next topic of one person company, private limited, public limited, if I combine, how the company will run, there are two main characters. One is company, that is promoters, that is shareholders, another is for operations, board of directors. So persons who contribute the capital, they are the shareholders. They are the holders of the share. What? Sharing the capital first, sharing the profits, even sharing the losses also. Even sometimes if the business of the company is closed and the assets are there, they even share the left out the assets also. That is the reason they call as a shareholder. In the shareholder, suppose a person who is there at the beginning, persons who promote the company, they are called as promoters. First is the promoters, latter people who join in that company is called as shareholder. Means sharing the profit or sharing the capital or whatever it may be, they are the shareholders. So in the beginning of a company, that is promoters. Later on, people who join subsequently join with the hands of the promoters, they will become the shareholders. So all the promoters are the shareholders, but all the shareholders need not be the promoters. Promoters are the persons who are there at the beginning. So promoters, shareholders. If these promoters and shareholders, they decided let's require manpower, then they will appoint a personnel who is an expertise person or who is having subject or knowledge or experience, and they will be called as the directors. These directors will be appointed by the shareholders. So again, all the directors need not be the shareholders of the company. For a company, for becoming the director, unless otherwise in a company main document, there are two documents are there, memorandum of association and articles of association. Memorandum of association is the one document which laid down what are the objectives of the company, what is the business idea and goals with which it has to do. Whereas articles of association is another internal document which talks about what are the rules and regulations, how the company has to manage, who will be the first directors of the company, what are the board meetings timings and how the frequency board meeting happen. Couple of internal rules and regulations which is of administrative nature will be mentioned in the articles of association. So memorandum of association is one document and articles of association is another document. Now the question come back to the things in the company, as I explained, one is promoters, then is shareholders and the directors. For the directors, unless articles of association mention that they should have the shares, minimum number of shares like 5,000 or 10,000, if that condition is there, they have to become they have to take the shareholders before they become directors. If that condition is not there, so directors, if any person can become the directors subject to if the shareholders agrees. So three characters: promoters, shareholders and directors. Promoters role will over once the company is promoted. Ultimately two characters, directors and shareholders. So all the directors need not be the shareholders. This is the one thing which we have to mention. Now coming to our topic of one person company. What is the one person company? Who is that one person? Whether he is a director or shareholder or promoter is the first question. Now the question is very clear. Person who promotes, that is one person is the one single promoter who is the shareholder of the company. General rule for forming a company, like partnership did require two partners, here also for the company also for a private limited required two partners, two people, that is two shareholders. Whereas in the case of one person company, one promoter is enough. So that is the reason one person company came into the picture. Now secondly, immediately in your mind there is a doubt is existing. What is the difference between the sole proprietor and what is the difference between this one promoter, one person? This is the doubt which will come into the picture. Sole proprietor and one person, to be frank, both are sounds like equal, that is a single person, but there is a vast difference is there. Sole proprietorship is not a legal entity, whereas one person company is a legal entity as per the registered as per the Companies Act. It got a rules, regulation, liabilities. Though here is a single person, but that single person will contribute the capital and then he will appoint the directors. Suppose Mr. A is the sole proprietor, he may in the case of he will start business, he will not have any other person. If the same Mr. A floats a one person company, he can have his board by appointing BCD, or else he can also become director. Remember friends, one person company means one shareholder, that is one promoter and one shareholder, but directors may be more than one also. Same Mr. A, if he is floated a one person company, he may be the director or he may appoint BCD as a directors of the company. So one person means one promoter, one shareholder, but directors will be more than one also. This is one thing which we have to think. So one person company is meant for one shareholder, that is one promoter, but directors will be more than one also. This is the one point which you have to think. So ultimately, in nutshell, one person company means a single person will start with his own capital and he will do the business and operations, and later on if he feel he can appoint so many people as a directors, manager or whatever it may be, even company secretaries also one person can appoint. whereas in the case of sole proprietorship that things are not there. When compared to sole proprietorship, it is a legal person. So one person company is a legal person, and all the advantages as a private limited company and as the rules and regulations and whatever applicable for the private limited company will applicable to one person company. We will know more details in the next slide about the private limited company, but let us see right now for the one person company how to form this one person company. Simple, as I explained, one shareholder, one director, nominee concept. Before I explain the nominee, here also as I told, that person whoever the thing is there, they should have a PAN or DIN and one digital signature is there. They have to decide the name, same step. First they have to decide name, and that name should not be identical or resemble with any other companies which are in India. Once the name is obtained, then they can go for other documentation like memorandum and articles of association, which are the documents they have to execute and they have to submit. Ultimately certificate of incorporation will be received. So here requirements is a DIN, digital signature, and nominee. Who is a nominee? This nominee word is also quite familiar. If you recall, if you want to open the bank account or if you want to take a LIC policy or any insurance policy, they will insist for the nominee. Who is the nominee? In the absence of main person, in the event of death or anything happens, this nominee will come into the picture. Like in the case of bank account, on the expiry of the concerned person, this amount will be go to the nominee. This is the same way in the case of one person company. Suppose he floated the company and subsequently after subsequent to his death or some other case, this whatever the shares of Mr. A will go to Mr. A legal representative. So he has to designate one person as his nominee. This is what nomination concept which is there very clearly, and it is mandatory at the time of mandatory means it is a legal requirement at the time of incorporation of one person company only they have to mention. That is called nominee. So these are the requirements. One shareholder, that is one promoter, and he can have one director or more directors, and a director identification number is something, and procedure is register of companies will issue the certificate of incorporation. And here if you see the disadvantages, sustainability only for one person company as of now, it is good for small business but not for the bigger thing. Sometimes cost of compliance or otherwise it maybe looks high, and the separation of ownership and control is not exist, to be frank. For the private limited and other things, owner is separate and controlship, but in the case of one person company both will be exist. So consequently lack of skills will be restricted like in the case of sole proprietorship, but advantages are more. To be frank, those who want to do sole proprietorship, they can better to if they got a reasonable turnover and reasonable profit, if they are confident, they can go for sole proprietorship. Even existing sole proprietorship, if they are there from last 4 or 5 years and their business is good, slowly they have to go for one person company, so that their visibility as well as getting the credit capacity through banks and other things will be through one person is sufficient. And even in the case of future also, legacy can be continued, one person company can be continued to the private limited or even bigger companies. So there is a scope. So those who are existing in one person company, the sole proprietorship, they can go for this one person company. This is the best tool in the business for the business form of organization. And the professionals like company secretaries, other professionals can help in this one person company in the formation, in preparing the legal documentation, in getting the digital signature, in getting the name from the register of companies, and preparing and vetting the memorandum, and explaining, advising every activity, even incorporation, even post incorporation also, how to conduct board meeting, how to choose the employee, and they can guide for the total professional management. So guide in the formation, then in the form of creation, after that in documentation, then how to run this one person company, entire thing. They can act as a friend, philosopher, and guide to this one person company. These professionals like company secretaries and other professionals, they are ready to the thing, and their role will continue even subsequently after the incorporation also, after forming one person company also, even filing every year, filing the returns, and returns like financial statements, everything will be guided by the concerned professionals like company secretaries and other professionals. Now little bit move for the next thing is a private limited company. Here also private limited company is having separate thing. There should be a minimum number of 2 members is required, maximum is 200 members, and 2 people can start like partnership firm, and it can extend to by making others also up to 200. They can invite and make them others people also, but it should be in a closed restricted manner. what is private limited company, what is the sole proprietorship, what is the partnership form. These are all the line of the thing. If you make a comparative study, then it will be easy. Private limited company also 2, partnership firm also 2. What is the difference? In the case of private limited company, again there is a separate legal entity, and with this liability is limited liability will be there, which is not there in the partnership firm. That is the main crux story. So the moment you want to go for, again 2 people are there, they want to 2 people combined together, they want to do the business. If they are aware of this limited liability concept, better to go for limited liability. If your business is risk prone and we are dealing with more of third party, there may be loss or damage may occur in the event of something, then it is better choice is to go and have the private limited company, so that your liability will be limited. This is one thing which they have to understand. So private limited company, 2 people will be there, and even the shares which are allocated also, there is a restriction on the shares. That is, what is that restriction on the shares? Suppose 2 friends A and B and one more friend C, if these 3 people formed, they formed a private limited company, and total they got a minimum capital of 1 lakh. If the shares are allotted 33% to 3 people, suddenly if the C want to go out, and because of one or other reason, before C want to go out, he can resign from the directorship, and his shares which are there with him, he must offer to the first A, B, but not to his friend, another friend of D. Before he want to sell these shares to D, first he must give this option. Look boss, I want to go out, whether are you interested to purchase my shares? Okay, that offer must be given to his existing friends A and B. If the A and B says no only, then he can go and sell the shares to D, and he can come out of the private limited. This concept is called as restriction on the transferability of the shares. It is mandatory for the private limited company, that is the transferability of shares. Those shares are freely transferable, but in the case of private limited companies, it is a restriction on the transfer of shares will be there. And other things, common seal and other things point will be there. So steps how to form private limited company is the question is, first is there should be name availability. Again they have to get the name availability from the register of companies, then memorandum of association and articles of association, digital signature, and through portal mca.gov.in. First step is they have to apply for the name. Again that name should be, it should not be identical with anything, it should have a separate characteristic. Then he should prepare the memorandum articles, and then finally they should obtain a certificate of registration. These are the steps for that. And the compulsory directors should have a DIN number. This is the another thing, and digital signature also. At least one director should have a digital signature. This is the formation for private limited company. Now its advantages, as I explained, it is a limited liability will be there, and you can raise capital also, and comparatively where for private limited less compliance and less regulation will be there, and various exemptions are there in the case of private limited company. And there will be perpetual succession, and a large scale of operations can be get benefit through this. Professional management is also allowed, and social benefit is there. Quick decisions also possible in the case of private limited company. Coming to the disadvantage, formation is not easy, and registration cost will be there, auditing will be there, compliance and formalities will be there, division of ownership is again there, and personal liability. Sometimes if you are given bankers separately or to outsider, and if you agree, then personal liability will exist, otherwise limited liability is there. So, and trading of shares is not permitted to outsiders, it is allowed in between the things. So if you see like this, you can see some of the example, you can identify with these people. The moment you see this film actor, then what is the company behind, is this Annapurna Studios. Similarly, popular movie, if you see Bahubali, who is the companies, these are the things. Like this, these are the example for private limited companies. Now let's move to the public company. This public company, what is the difference and other things, let's see. In the case of public company, minimum there should be 7 members. 7 members are required, and minimum 3 directors. 7 members means 7 shareholders and 3 directors. And the transferability of shares is free, and there is a common seal. Of course, nowadays the common seal is not mandatory. There will be a separate legal entity, and it is also artificial person, and financial privacy will be there, and professional management company will be there. Advantages also: raising the capital and finance opportunity, growth and expansion, prestigious profile and confidence will be there. And here the free transferability of the shares will be there. And disadvantages is very thing is more regulatory process, and complaints are more, and risk is also there. But ultimately a number of trading shares also very limited to the closed held. So now here what is let me explain the public limited company very clearly. Public limited company with a same private limited company wise, here also public limited company, 3 shareholders means 3 promoters they can form directly public limited company. And so minimum 7 shareholders are agreed, and 3 out of 7 they may have among themselves 7 people as a directors, or 3 people as a directors, or they may appoint outsiders as the directors. Now when the private limited company is required, when the public limited company is required is the first question. When you want to, when your capital requirement is huge, when your business is definitely required more persons to involvement, more capital requirement. In the case of private limited company, there is upper ceiling on the number of shares, that is the 200, whereas in the case of public limited company there is no upper ceiling. Suppose you know that you required huge capital, that cannot be possible with even 200 people also. Otherwise also you required, because I told there are some negative points in the private limited company, your shares cannot be transferable freely. There is a restriction on the transfer of shares. But in you required I required a huge capital, I required so much shares, and there should be a transferability of the shares. All these things which are negative points we want to go, then you are allowed for a public limited company. Here also incorporation procedure also same way, 7 people has to decide, they have to apply for the name availability, then they have to prepare the memorandum articles, and they have to take the certificate of registration. All these things are services provided by company secretary and other professionals. Here professionals like company secretaries and other professionals, they will give the whatever the important documents is there, they will provide the first advice whether to go for private limited or public limited, and legal advices opinion will be there, they will help in the process of this. And incorporation drafting the documents and representing on behalf of the promoters with the register of companies, and they will help in the administration. And they company secretary, even if the company goes in a bigger way with a huge capital of 5 crores or more, he will act as a key managerial person also, taking care of the regular administration and conducting the board meetings and maintaining the records. Everything will be taken care of by the company secretary. This is what ultimately, these are the services which are required for the public limited company. Whatever the services required by the public company, it will be taken care. So you must be familiar with this type of logos. This Tata Group company, Infosys, Wipro, Airtel. Now what is this? Reliance. That is what our next topic is, listed company. Now what is listed? Word listed itself means your company name is listed somewhere else. Recall, like your name is listed in the college board. This is what example means. When your name will be listed, either you achieved highest marks, or you achieved some credibility, or achieved something in the colleges, like you become the you got award or medal or winner. This is positive points when your name will be listed. Same way negative also, if you are dismissed or disqualified, or your disciplinary action against taken, you also your name will be displayed on the college boards. Here also a positive thing is, if a company is there, the shares are there, there will be a platform for listing, that is called as a stock exchange. What is stock exchange? An exchange where stock will be buy and sell. Again, what is the exchange? You know the word of telephone exchange. In telephone exchange, what happens? Calls will be given and taken. Nowadays we are using mobiles, otherwise once upon a time, if you recall, you can ask your mother and father and even grandfather also. Olden days calls will be through a trunk call, you have to book in one in advance, after 1 hour they will call and connect with Mumbai. Of course, because thanks to technology we are able to use immediately, with 1 second we are able to dial and we can connect. But this exchange role is connecting the calls and doing the so many operations related to the calls. That is what is the telephone exchange. Same way, if you come to the stock exchange, stock means, to be frank, word stock is in the corporate sense, it is the shares. Stock exchange, an exchange where the shares will be purchased and sold, or else a platform created by a place, that forum is called as stock exchange. Now the question is, what is listed? Your shares will be listed. Why it is listed? It is again same concept. In the case of private limited company, we discussed that you can sell the shares to the third person only if A and B, means you can go to the D if A and B are not agreed. In the case of public company, there is no restriction, you can mobilize the capital. But more and more capital is required in a wider manner. You want to mobilize and you want to give the more free hand to the shares. Generally, how the shares will happen? Take an example of the goods in the market. In the market, if more options is there, more people will ask, then automatically if the more people require some commodity, then the price will be highly slowly increased. If you see the example, mangoes in the summer, it will start with 50 rupees, it will go to 70, 80, in the middle of the May, it will go to 100 because more people are eager to think because it's a seasonal fruit. Like that, the moment demand is there, price will be there. Same in the case of shares also. In the case of public company, it is called as a closed company. In the closed company, even 1000 shares or more than 1000 shares are there, but shares may be among the 1000 people. Suppose your company name is listed with the stock exchange, then entire India, in fact entire global, people are ready to buy as well as sell. The moment more suppliers and more givers are there, then automatically if the company performance is good, your company visibility. First of all, the moment you are listed, your company name will be there in the newspaper, in the TV news channels, and it will be widespread. Today we are able to understand Reliance, Infosys and all things, how every time they will not give advertisement because of their performance. Being they are listed, we are able to connect with that names. Same brand image and visibility will come. Same way your performance is there, your shares will be daily traded. Automatically, so many other people, today 1000 shareholders are there, tomorrow 10,000 shareholders will be there. Or else day after tomorrow 10,000 shareholders again come back to 1000 shareholders. This type of a dynamic buying and selling of the shares will normally not happen. It will happen in the case of a listed company. I will explain this example with the banking thing. Suppose those who are, I hope you know the banking, let me explain that concept also. What is the difference between savings bank and current account? Savings bank account, your transactions are limited, daily some transaction, whereas in the current account your transactions are not limited. You can do the regular transaction, you can give the number of checks more and all things. That is the reason once you reach to one level thing, you need to have a current account, so that there are no restrictions. Otherwise, in the case of savings account and current account, in the savings account got more restriction. Similarly, public limited company, listed company, both are public limited companies, but in the case of listed company, free transferability will be there. Shares will be widely circulated, and so many strangers. In the case of public limited, that is we popularly called as closely held company and widely held company. In a closely held company, the shareholders will be one or other way directly connected or familiar with the promoters and management, whereas in the case of listed companies, there is no connectivity or familiarity with the management. Strangers will come and go. Suppose today Reliance is there, Reliance management may don't know who is the shareholders personally, this is only on the records. Similarly Tata. So there is no personal interaction or connection except in the shareholders meeting. That is what. So in nutshell, listed company is the means a wider spectrum is there. Shares will be listed and so many shareholders got an opportunity for the buy and sell, and consequently the more liquidity will be there. Let us see these characteristics more clearly. It is a public listed on a recognized stock exchange. It's like private limited company, there are private limited company 2 directors, public limited 3 directors. Here also same thing is, of course, stock exchange will have more restrictions, so that you may need to have other directors like independent directors, women directors, etc. Transferability is there, common seal and artificial person will be there actually. And separate legal entity, trading of securities, financial privacy will be there, and professional control, well defined professional management will be there. And here the disadvantages is more regulatory requirements. The moment company is there, first control is there by Minister of Corporate Affairs. Suppose the moment you are become listed company, there is another regulator will come into the picture, that is SEBI, Security Exchange Board of India. Similarly, if you are dealing with foreign exchange, foreign direct investment or something, another regulator will be there, that is Reserve Bank of India. Suppose In a listed company only you are doing business with insurance, then another regulator will be there, that is IRDA, Insurance Regulatory Development Authority. So the moment you are net shell, minimum Minister of Corporate Affairs, then SEBI will be there. Based on your business, again other regulator may come into the picture. Suppose you are doing telecom business, then TRAI will be there. Like that, based on things, more regulatory environment there, more compliances will be there, more professionals will be there. So here compliance formalities, ownership and control issue, ownership is different, control is different, and sometimes a promoters who floated the company, they may not have the control also. If the shareholders are more, active shareholders are more, and the stake is there more in the hands of the normal public, then the control may not be there with the even promoters and the management also. This is what, unlike in the case of private limited companies, unlisted companies, this is the characteristic feature of a listed company. So friends, if you see all these things, we discussed, one is private limited company, another is public limited company, finally listed companies. 3 companies, all are same categories, that is company only. Company means company incorporated through register of companies in accordance with the Companies Act. So all got a certificate of incorporation, all got a body corporate and perpetual succession, and they are legal entities. Legal entities means in their company name itself cases may be filed, and against the company, even company also can file the cases against somebody in the event of any disputes is there. This is the fundamental characters among all these characters. Now what is the difference? Private limited is a smaller one with minimum of 2 to maximum 200. Limited company may again listed, unlisted, or else closely held and widely held. So limited may people are, though larger shareholders are there, for visibility and free tradability and dynamic trading, listed company is required. So this is the way categories happen. The moment based on the category, compliances and regulatory environment also will change. For private limited company, little compliances. For public limited company, more, whereas in the case of listed, more regulatory and compliances. Now your question starts. Totally out of these, today I want to go for a company, which I have to go? What is the thing? What is your advantage? What is your advice? Shall I go to private limited or public limited? All thing. My simple thing is, you are starting first time and you want to do the business, and you want to do the business, that too in the form of a company, better to go private limited company. The moment you are growing one by one, you require a capital, you can migrate, you can convert private limited company into public limited company also. Similarly, once you are familiar and you require more funds and more visibility, then you can go for listed company. This is for a normal entrepreneur. If you want to develop as an entrepreneur, this is the normal process. But at the same time, it is not, need not be the route, it is a traditional route. Suppose you are confident and you got a backup with other promoters, or else if suddenly tomorrow a big company want to join with you, and if you are confident, directly you can go for a listed company also. But that may be always a risky one. Or else if you see that if you already a listed company want to go for again for another company, they may directly float a company and go for public issue, because their background, promoters background, all things. This is the way, based on the need, size and other things, it will be there. So one should take a call. First is whether the private limited company or public limited company, and one should decide first of all, you want to do sole proprietorship or public, a partnership form, or limited liability, or a company. So ultimately decision is based on the business need and your capability, your background, and whatever your capital is there in your hand, and the progress of your product and services. That is the way one formation of business organization decision has to be taken. Right decision at right time is always thing, but this country requires entrepreneur. Always please go for an entrepreneur, and definitely it will yield the results if you are ready to face the risk always. Thank you.